Hey guys, welcome to the video. Salt here. Today we're going to be going over the companion, the Sunika Kubrow. So let's get into the Kubrow here. We have Big Chungus, the Sunika Kubrow in front of us here. And because of the rework that happened with pets, even companions have little weapons now. So like the Sunika Kubrow will have Sunika claws. If you have a Chesia Kubrow, it'll have Chesia claws. And so these are moddable items that certain old mods that used to go on the main pet can now go on these claws. And there's also new mods for the claws as well. So let's go over the Sunika. I believe the Sunika is one of the better Kubrows in the game though. So I'm excited to show off this one. So we'll go over the main build first on the Sunika. Okay, and we're going to start with the two survivability mods. So I have Link Vitality and I have Link Fiber. This will change depending on what you are doing. So I'm playing Inaros. Inaros is a health and armor warframe, so it makes sense for me to link my health and link my armor, which is what Link Vitality and Link Fiber does. It links my warframe's health and armor to my Sunika Kubrow. Now, if you were playing Hildren, for instance, it might instead look like this. It might be Link Vitality and Link Redirection for increased shields, because of course Hildren has a lot of shields, so if you link your shields to your pet, he's going to get a lot of shields. So this is dependent on the Warframe, these two slots here. Also, you can consider on a shield frame like Hildren or like Shield Harrow not going Link Vitality, and instead you just go Link Redirection, and you go Hastened Deflection. And Hastened Deflection will allow your pet to get his shield gate up quicker. I do still, even on like, on Hildren, for instance, my pet, I still would really like some HP though, even though, you know, they're mostly a shield frame. So I would still probably go Link Vitality or regular Vitality. And we'll get to that here. So let me take these off. I'm going to go back to the other ones I had on. I had Link Vitality and I had Link Fiber. Let me just type in Fiber because I think it got put over to the right there. Okay. The other thing to consider is, well, what if my frame doesn't have a lot of health, a lot of armor, or a lot of shield? You know, for instance, a shield gating warframe. A shield gating warframe usually doesn't have a lot of stats at all. So the link mods are usually not very good for that type of a warframe or that type of a pet. So instead of the link mods, you would use the regular mods. So you have the enhanced vitality, metal fiber, and calculated redirection instead of the link versions. So these are based just on the pet's base stats. So if you're playing a warframe that doesn't have stats because maybe you're a shield gator, instead of using the link versions, use the regular versions. Okay? So we use two of them here. You can also use all three. You can use Link Vitality, Link Fiber, and Link Redirection. Of course, as long as it makes sense, right? Link Redirection on a Naros doesn't necessarily make sense, but on most Warframes it would. It's just that you're using a lot of mod space for 3 survivability mods now, and you're missing out on something, right? You have to like take off Synth Deconstruct, which is really powerful, right? Or you have to take off Duplex Bond, which could be really powerful. So for that reason, I do suggest only 2 survivability mods, but you could do 3. 3 is a little bit safer, but you miss out on some support or damage. Okay, in the next slot here, we have Synth Deconstruct. This is a little bit of a flex slot because this is dependent on if your Warframe uses Equilibrium or not, or if your Warframe just needs health, you know, some kind of a health regen mechanic. If your Warframe is maybe starved for health or needs health regen, Synth Deconstruct is great. And if your Warframe uses Equilibrium, Synth Deconstruct is great. If neither of those two things are true, then you can take Synth Deconstruct off and you have a free mod slot for something else. Or you can go, you know, that 3 link mods if you really want to there. But for an Equilibrium Warframe or for a Warframe that really just needs more health, Synth Deconstruct is absolutely amazing. This will make your pet poop out a metric butt ton of health orbs. Okay. In the next slot here, actually in the next 3 slots, I believe these next 3 slots are mandatory on every companion build in the game. It used to be just 2 of them. It used to be Primed Animal Instinct for loot and enemy radar, and Fetch to actually get your loot for you. But now there is a new mod called Resourceful Retriever. And actually, let me type in Retriever, because there's 3 mods that are like this. All right, you have 3 different mods, and you can actually use any of these. They all cost the exact same capacity, and they are the same polarity. So it's very easy to switch back and forth. But something to note is that they don't stack. So if I have this one here and I try to put this one on, it goes red, right? I try to put this one on, it goes red. So they don't stack. You can only have one of these on. Well, what's the difference? So if we look at Resourceful Retriever, this is an 18% chance to double resource pickups. And if we look at Prosperous Retriever, this is an 18% chance to double credit pickups. So if you need more credits, then you put Prosperous on. And if you need more resources, you put Resourceful on. I have 2 clans, and so I use a crap load of resources. And so I'm always going to be running with Resourceful Retriever. And that's why I use it. Now, Loyal Retriever is both of them, basically, except it's 13%. So it's 13% chance to double credit and resources. So if you kind of want both, if you want resources and credits, just use Loyal Retriever here instead. It's fine. Me, myself, I don't mind credits. I could just do like a few quick index runs, so I don't really care about credits too much. So I like resources better. So I'm going to go with Resourceful Retriever for just a little bit extra chance to pick up extra resources. So these three mods, I believe, are now mandatory on every companion build. Again, you can switch out the Retriever one, though, to whatever you need for the other Retrievers. Okay, next we have Contagious Bond. Let me read this here. When your companion kills an enemy afflicted with a status effect, 50% of that status effect spreads to other enemies within 9 meters. Max 100 stacks. Okay, so something that we're not going to know yet until we go into the actual clause of the Sunika Kubrow. So what is the Sunika Kubrow actually good for? Like, what is its niche? Because every pet needs to have a niche for it to be actually viable. If it doesn't have a niche, then you shouldn't use that pet. Well, the Sunika Kubrow's niche is that it provides a lot of magnetic procs. It provides a crap load of magnetic procs. And so Contagious Bond helps with spreading even more magnetic procs. Now, magnetic procs, they act like viral. It is a similar effect where that enemy will receive up to 325%, depending on how many procs there are. But at 10 procs, it'll be up to 325% extra damage. Now, viral affects health, and magnetic affects shields and overguard. So that's where they're different. Viral and magnetic are similar in that it goes up to 325 extra damage, but just one is health damage, one is shield and overguard damage. Which is really nice because on higher levels, you are facing a lot of Xmas units and a lot of units with overguard. So Contagious Bond, when your dude does kill something, so he's already spreading magnetic statuses, and when he kills something, he's going to spread more magnetic statuses. That's why it makes sense. Okay, next mod here, we have Duplex Bond. Duplex Bond is going to be the weakest mod in the Sunika Kubrow build, unless you didn't need Synth Deconstruct. If you didn't need Synth Deconstruct because you're not running Equilibrium, then this is the weakest one. But if you're running Equilibrium, then Duplex Bond will be your weakest mod. Now, the reason it's your weakest mod is because the Sunika Kubrow's actual fighting ability, not abilities, but fighting ability is kind of meh. It's not great. He actually spreads most of his magnetic statuses through doing savagery. And if you read Duplex Bond, the clones caused from Duplex Bond can't cast Precept mods. So they're not going to be able to cast Savagery. Only the main Sunika Kubrow can cast Savagery. So the clones are good. They'll give you extra magnetic procs on whatever they attack, but they're not the best, right? Like the main Kubrow is doing the way more like bulk of the work than the little clones do. So for that reason, Duplex Bond is a flex slot. And there is a really good mod to go over Duplex Bond but it is currently bugged. I did testing on it. So Tenacious Bond. Okay, so Tenacious Bond gives you 1.2 crit damage multiplier to your Warframe, which is really good. It's a mod that goes on your pet that gives you 1.2 times crit damage on your Warframe. So it's nuts. Like this pretty much should go on every pet as long as it works. But unfortunately with the Sunika Kubrow it does not work. And it's because Hunter Synergy used to act as though it was a regular mod and increased your critical over 50%, but now Hunter Synergy doesn't work after the patch. So if you're from the future and Hunter Synergy is now working, let us know, and in that case you would easily put Tenacious Bond over Duplex Bond. But for right now, in the past, where we are currently, Tenacious Bond does not work. So, but this could get fixed pretty soon because a lot of people are angry about this. So for right now, we're using Duplex Bond. It's pretty good, but it's not like an amazing combo with the Sunika. All right, next here we have Savagery. The Kubrow rushes at 8 enemies within 10 meters, dealing damage and knocking them over. All right, that's kind of cool. Like I said, the Sunika doesn't actually have a great like attack profile compared to some of the other Kubrows. But why is Savagery so good? Well, it's good because of other mods we're going to use on the Sunika Claws. We're going to use a mod on the Sunika Claws that gives it forced impact procs. And then we're going to use another mod on the Sunika Claws that are going to turn those forced impact procs into magnetic procs. Okay, so he's going to have forced magnetic procs, basically. Now, if we read Savagery again, he rushes at 8 enemies and deals damage and knocks him over. Now, those forced magnetic procs happen to all 8 of those enemies. So that's why he is a pretty damn good magnetic spreader. And then you mix that with Contagious Bond, where if he actually kills one of them and starts spreading more, then it's even better, you know? So that's where you're getting most of your magnetic spreading. That's why Duplex Bond is kind of the weaker one, because like the clones will spread magnetic, but they're not going to be spreading it as like nearly as quick as your main Kubrow who's using Savagery. Okay. Next mod here, we have Unleashed. The Kubrow hunts for Eximus units protected by Overguard within 60 meters and deals 300% damage against Overguard. So this is a Sunika Kubrow specific mod. There's 2 Sunika Kubrow specific mods. There's Savagery and there's Unleashed. So this is going to combo with other mods that he's going to be using on his claws to just do a lot of damage against overguarded enemies. And he's also going to prioritize overguarded enemies too because of it. And because of one of the stance mods we're using on the claws. So Unleashed is very good. And then finally, Fetch. We already went over Fetch. Fetch just collects your loot for you. You should always use Fetch. You should always use Primeval Instinct. And you should always use now one of the Retrievers. Okay, so that is the Sunika Kubrow build. Let's go into the claws now, and we'll go over them. Okay, Sunika Claws. So we're going to start with the posture. The posture is going to be Assassin Posture. The companion will prioritize Eximus and other high-ranking enemies, and it deals 300% damage to Overguard. So remember that other mod that was a Sunika-specific mod that did another 300% damage to Overguard? So this guy's doing a crap load of damage to Overguard, and he is prioritizing the Eximus enemies that have Overguard, and he's producing Force Magnetic procs, which do more damage to Overguard. So he is an Overguard destroyer. Not only an Overguard destroyer, but he's a magnetic spreader as well. So that's why Assassin Posture is going to be a must for the Sunika Kubrow. And let's go over some of the mods here now. Well, actually, before we go over the mods, let's look at his damage profile and why I said he's kind of, he's okay. So his critical chance is only 50%, which is kind of bad compared to other pets and even some of the other Kubrows. Like it's pretty mid and it's pretty bad. The critical multiplier is gigantic. The critical multiplier is amazing, 11.2. So this is where the Sunika like has all of his stats basically, and the crit damage multiplier. So you still want to go crit chance, even though the crit chance is still kind of dookie. So you still go bite to give him more crit chance, and it increases the crit damage more as well. Just because the things that do crit are going to basically be one-shotting enemies. And then the status chance is pretty dookie too. It's 50%. And if you know anything about companion AI is pretty crappy. I think they improved it a bit, but it's still pretty crappy. Like, they don't attack super fast. So for something that doesn't attack super fast and it only has a 50% status chance, that means that every 2 attacks is going to apply 1 status, which is pretty garbage. That's why it's really good we're getting the forced magnetic, because forced procs don't take your status chance into account. They just happen regardless, right? He attacks something and it goes on them. It doesn't take your status chance into account. The only thing that takes your status chance into account are these elements that show underneath it. So we have a 52% chance to produce either a slash or a heat proc. And look at the heat weighting. The heat weighting is gigantic. So we're most likely going to be producing a heat proc, and sometimes there'll be a slash. Okay? These are not super important, but I'll explain why I go with slash and heat. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have a great status chance, so he's not going to be producing a lot of these. And most of his value is actually from forced magnetic proc. So like, you don't really care too much if you get these. You're mostly using the slash and the heat mods to just increase the base damage, basically. So, okay, enough of that. Let's go over the mods now on the Sunika Claws. So we have Bite, which is going to be crit chance, crit damage. We're going to have Maul, which is going to be some more melee damage. We're going to have Precision Conditioning, which is going to be 380% melee damage, and it converts all base physical damage to slash damage. This is optional if you don't have, like, let's say, I know these are brand new mods and they're also expensive, right? Like, they're 10-star mods, so not everyone is going to have these leveled up all the way. So, like, let's say you started with Brute Conditioning, which is the impact version, or Disabling Conditioning, which is the puncture version. It doesn't matter. There's very little differences between these. Now, the reason I think out of all 3 of these, like the slightly min-maxed version is the slash, is because in the off chance he does produce that a proc that is one of the physical elements, what do you believe would be more valuable? Would it be 1 puncture proc, which just gives 5% final critical? Not really too much. 1 impact proc when he's already producing a crap load of forced impacts? Not really. Or 1 slash proc that's actually going to be pretty big because he's got a shitload of damage. So I think the slash proc is going to be the most meaningful out of those 3, and that's why I go with slash. But it's a minor, right? Like, it's a minor thing. So you can go with any of those 3. Okay, next here we have Burning Claws, 330% heat, 330% status chance, and it converts all elemental damage from these claws to heat damage. Okay, so heat. Why do we go heat? Again, this is a minor increase because he's not going to be producing a lot of heat. It's only 1 out of every 2 hits he's going to be producing a heat, unless it rolls slash. But why I think heat is the best is because he's going to be producing magnetic forced, which is going to give you more damage to shields and overguard, and heat procs reduce armor, which is also going to give you more damage, basically. So they're both kind of like damage buffs. So that's why I think heat is the best. But again, it's quite minor because he's not going to be producing a lot of heat. It's going to just happen once in a while. But you definitely want one of the claw mods on, right? So like if you didn't go with Burning Claws and like let's say you picked up Shocking Claws first, don't worry, just put Shocking Claws here as it's fine. It's fine. You'll have Slash and Electric in that case, whatever. It'll still be fine. I just think the min-maxed, little tiny bit better way is Burning Claws. All right, now we have a mod that makes me angry because it's kind of bugged right now. And that's Hunter Synergy. It still makes it on the build. It's still good enough to have on the build, but it is bugged in that it does not work with Tenacious Bond that would go on the pet himself. Tenacious Bond was the one that increased our critical damage by 1.2 on our Warframe, as long as our pet's weapon or our pet had an over 50% critical chance. Well, look, with Hunter Synergy, we have an over 50% critical chance. We have 54.7. But it doesn't work right now. It doesn't work. The only thing that gets taken into effect for Tenacious Bond right now is Bite. So if Bite right now, again, this is we're in the past. If you're from the future and this is working, then whatever, it works now. But right now, where we are in the past, the only thing that works is bite. So the only thing the game is actually recognizing is that we have a 32.3% crit chance, which is not enough to activate Tenacious Bond. So even though we put Hunter Synergy on and we're going up to 54.7, the game doesn't give a shit about it. Okay, so why are we still using it? Well, we're still using it because it's still pretty decent. If we look at Hunter Synergy here, 30% of our primary weapon critical chance is added to our companion, so our companion has more crit chance. Again, he has a gigantic crit multiplier, so any kind of crit chance is really good. And if you look at the bottom two, plus 25% companion damage on enemies affected by Slash. That's a minor increase because, again, Slash is not weighted super well on him. So it's a minor increase, but the top and the bottom effect are good enough to have on the build for Sunika Claws. Okay, next we're going to have Mecha Overdrive. So 60% of your primary weapon's status chance is added to your companion. And you get plus 90% status duration. The status duration is what I really like. The status chance is nice too. I mean, you can get some more heat and slash procs out of it depending on your primary weapon's status chance. But the status duration is really nice because he's going to be spreading a lot of magnetic procs all over the place. And you want those magnetic procs to stay up for when your actual Warframe is going to, be doing damage to those enemies. You don't want them to just fall off. So status duration is really nice. And again, the status chance is cool too. That comes with it. Then you also have the bottom effect. Companion marks a target every 60 seconds for 3 seconds, and then killing that target applies their status effects to all enemies within 7.5 meters. This is another one that can spread those statuses. And in fact, this is a set. There's another mecha mod that can go on the Kubrow himself. I didn't think it was good enough to add to the Kubrow build. But you could do it, if you didn't need, like, let's say the synth deconstruct, you could always add the other mecha mod in that slot. And it would go from a 60% for 60 seconds for 3 seconds to 45 seconds for 3 seconds. And I think if you have 4 ticks, it goes down to 15 seconds, I believe. But Mecha Overdrive we're mostly using for the status duration and a little bit because of the status chance. Status chance is always nice, but mostly for that status duration. All right, now we have the 1-2 punch. We have the actual thing that makes this build do what it does, and that's Bell Ringer and Magnetic Strike. Let's start with Bell Ringer first. So melee attacks knock down enemies and apply +4 impact status effects. These are forced impacts, which means that it doesn't give a shit that this says 52. The enemy's always just going to get 4 impacts whenever he attacks something. The status chance doesn't matter. Okay, now we combine that with Magnetic Strike, where there's a 100% chance to apply a magnetic proc when inflicting an impact status. So these 4 impacts that you get forced automatically turn into 4 magnetic procs. So you get 4 magnetic procs on the enemy that he's attacking. That's the build for the Sunika Claws. And if we go back to the main build here, now when he uses Savagery, he's attacking 8 dudes and applying those 4 magnetic procs to all 8 dudes. So really, really good combo there. The Sunika is actually pretty decent for a magnetic spreader. Is he as competitive as, like, let's say, maybe like a Verglis, or I'm trying to think of like some of the other good spreaders. Panzer Vulpaphyla, I don't know. No, he's more of a viral spreader. But, like, is he as good as some of the other status spreaders? Probably not, but he's getting there. He's getting there. I think because of Resourceful Retriever, like it puts him into a good enough category to actually be like Steel Path viable. I think he's worth using in Steel Path. Again, I think he's one of the better Kubrows in the game. So tomorrow I will be focusing on 2 of the more loot-focused Kubrows, the Chessa and the... Oh god, what is it? The Chessa and the... Yeah, my Chessa's done already, and I was working on this one. Sahasa? Yeah, Chessa and the Sahasa, which are the 2 loot-focused ones. That can actually get another loot mod besides Resourceful. So they're kind of cool too. But for actual usability, I think the Sunika is really, really powerful with that magnetic spreading. So yeah, that's it. Let me stop running my mouth there. Well, actually, no. Before I end this, let's go to the simulacrum real quick, and I'm just going to show them off magnetic spreading, just so I can put my money where my mouth is.
Would cry out in thanks.
You'll spawn in like 10 dudes. I spawned in 20 dudes, but like when you have a crap load of dudes, it's sometimes hard to see because there's like too much crap on the screen. So let me I'll spawn in 8 guys. Yeah, it only jumps to 8 dudes anyway. So spawn these dudes in. He's going to jump to them, and you'll see they all have magnetic on them. All right, magnetic, 8, 10, 4, 4, 4. I think the one in the back fell off. But they all get that magnetic proc when he jumps to them. And then whenever he just attacks to him, whenever he attacks normally, they get another 4. So he's spreading a crap load of those magnetics. You know, then he goes and jumps around again to 8 dudes and spreads them all around. So yeah, it works really well. So that's it. That's a Sunika done. If you guys like the video, consider giving it a like. If you haven't subbed yet, consider subbing or tell me what I can do to earn your sub. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. All right, bye.